Okay, so this is probably the, damn, that was a little, okay, that was fast. This is the longest title I've ever put on a slide. I'll try to still keep the talk short, sweet, and funny. Who in the audience is playing Rainbow Six Siege? Good. Why not? You have to come back. We have some pretty cool stuff. That's it. So who doesn't know about Rainbow Six Siege at all? I assume that. I'll give you a quick intro. So Rainbow Six Siege is the top game from Ubisoft. It's one of the biggest titles. It's an esports title. They do pro leagues, competition all over the place, and it's called a tactical FPS. So it's basically two teams of 5 competing as the assault team or the defense team, and defending either a bomb or a biohazard container or on a hostage. That's not my favorite because I keep killing the hostage, which is not a good thing. That's how you lose very fast, and people hate you. So we were lucky at Azarus. We started the company in 2017, and we were lucky to land Ubisoft and Rainbow Six Siege as our test subject, and we were able to apply our thesis to that crazy game and crazy community of players. Our thesis basically is that you all know about acquisition. There is tons of ways to acquire people, get them to come to your game. Ads, ad networks are everywhere. You can buy basically people installing the game, playing the game. That's super well tooled. You know, everything else is not. So Oscar earlier talked about the live ops. Live ops is one way. How do you get that player to keep playing, to come back, to go from, and to engage, and to go from casual to mid-core to hardcore? Live ops have changed the way we make games because it's not static anymore, it's alive, and it changes and evolves. You know what live ops doesn't do really well? It doesn't connect with each individual player and to his own needs. And if you look at that, there's actually a ton of very different reasons why people play games. Some want to create connections and keep playing with the same persons. Some want to just finish all the tasks that you give them because that's how they are. Some want just like to snack on content and to snack on gameplay. So there's a ton of different ways to play the games. And live ops, what our thesis was about is live ops is awesome. It's really a one track. It's like we're doing one thing for everybody. And it's really hard to go and be creative and really relate to that diversity of profiles. The other thing that was really exciting for us is how Twitch and streaming has changed games. If you look at Rainbow Six Siege, it's an esports title, but it's also one of the top games on Twitch. Because it's really awesome, like it's an awesome show. If you watch a Rainbow Six game online, so like there's a lot going on, matches are really short, 3-5 minutes, it goes on and on and on. And you know, one thing that's really phenomenal that changed over the past few years is that not just Ubisoft, everybody in the industry who's aware, like looking at that phenomenon, now consider watch time as playtime. So it's not just like I have eyeballs watching the game. No, this counts as just the same as if you were starting a game client, playing Fortnite, watching Fortnite, same thing. Playing Rainbow Six Siege, watching Rainbow Six Siege, same thing. And there's a cool study that's a little blurry here, unfortunately, that shows basically the correlation between watch time and play time. And you have basically a range between somewhere like low 40s to up 80% that correlates. If you watch, you will play. And so it's the same thing. Any interaction with gameplay, whether you hold the controller, look at watch someone do it for you, that's playtime. Engagement and retention, as I said, is a key component. It's very cool to get users through the door, a player through the door. But it doesn't matter if he doesn't stick around, play on a regular basis, create those connections, and engage with the community. As Oscar said it really well earlier, there's a fatigue when it comes to challenges. If you look at challenges, every company does it, EA does it, everyone has challenges in their games that change on a weekly basis. Those challenges are awesome, but they're very linear. They will say, why do I care about today making a shot with that operator? Who knows? Someone decided that somewhere. It doesn't really relate to what I need to do or my personal position in that funnel of engagement. It's just like, this is the daily challenge, okay? Do I care about it? Yes, no, maybe. Content, it's obviously awesome. Create new content, like if you played Rainbow, they made Rainbow's Magic, they basically reskinned the whole area and made it live for a week. This draws people in for sure, but it's super expensive. So we're looking at different ways of making it happen. And what we built basically is a layer on top of existing games where we use the data from the game, so we actually know when you make those kills, when you win a game, lose a game, make a headshot, all the data, and we use the data to operate a layer of challenges where you can decide the rules, the stakes, and the rewards. And what's really interesting here is that we make it super personal. It's not something for the same thing for everybody. You can make it as granular and as targeted as you want. And even better, you can make players define their own challenges and figure out how they want to play the games that they love. So it's really about turning a little bit the question upside down and creating another layer that does not require any change in the game. And the way that you interact with that, we have multiple ways, but the first one is the extension on Twitch that connects to the game that's being streamed, that explains, that asks questions about what's happening in that game. We also have PvP challenges that allow players to just define how they want to play with one another. This is me playing, like, I remember I lost that one actually, like painfully. But the Gadget Destroy, and the worst one was melee kills. But anyways, so PvP challenges, you set up, you look at a few metrics and decide what winning or losing means. And they come in many fashions. Let me show you first how it's all started on Rainbow Six Siege. And that was in September last year when we started working with 3 small streamers who were selected by Ubisoft and were streaming Rainbow Six Siege on a regular basis in the UK. And there is sound.
After each match, you will get the opportunity to answer a question based on that last match.
How many times did I die? How many, I don't know, how many cameras did I destroy?
So once that question pops up, you will then get a choice of 4 answers. If you get that answer correct, the number of tokens that I have set on my end will then get distributed between all of the winners of that, everyone that got it right. Once you accrue 5 points in total, you will be able to go to the Azarus website. You will be able to unlock a code for 600 Rainbow Six credits. That is how it works.
So what's really interesting here is like 600 Rainbow Six credits, that's $5. People were watching actively over 20 hours of streaming to get those credits. And when I say actively, that means that they were actually paying attention because some of the questions were hard. It's like, how many rounds were fired? So if you know the gun, the speed of the amount of kill, like you can try to figure out the range, but it's actually really, you have to pay a ton of attention as opposed to drops where you just have to stream camp. Here, you actually have the audience watching, paying attention for 20 hours to get $5 of rewards. And they loved it. They were so excited to get those credits. So it's really that simple idea of an incentive loop, giving an objective, gamifying it, and giving a reward. Extremely powerful. That guy was doing 20 concurrent viewers when he started streaming with Azarus on Rainbow Six Siege. A week later, he was the biggest stream on Twitch on Rainbow Six Siege with over 1,000 concurrent viewers. People just flooded his stream, and the level of engagement, like pretty much every KPI he had, went up double or triple digits. And now he's a partner at Twitch, which really good for him. Like, awesome guy, great potential, didn't have the numbers, but creating that engagement layer really helped out. And so, since that day, we've increased how we use Azarus to basically work on community building, engagement and resurrection of players, influencer management, how do we help those guys basically grow in the streaming of Rainbow Six Siege, and online video to game, which is very interesting. Like, how do you get viewers who are watching the game, how do you push them back into the game and playing? And all those things were achieved using the same platform with Azarus without changing a single line of code to the game. And that's something pretty unique. We were able to basically give a tool to the marketing team at Ubisoft to put them in charge and create those campaigns and those marketing campaigns in a fully automated way without the support of the production. And if you look at big companies like Ubisoft, this is huge, because production, they have like 9 months of backlog. And you can ask them something, it may not happen. Probably will not happen. So real quickly, a few numbers that I was able to put together without putting too many like proprietary information in it, which Ubisoft may not be happy with. But just showing a little bit the level of engagement and retention on the streams. 90% of the users who were watching another stream would return within the next 10 days. That's crazy engagement on stream. Usually people really snack, and especially if you look at the type of streams that we were targeting with small influencers, small creators, they don't have that level of an audience, but using that, people would just learn that those streams let me play and interact with the streamer. This is awesome. A few weeks later, we actually allowed the viewers to set an objective to the streamer and tell him, hey, if you do 10 headshots on the next match, I'll send you back some credits. And that was awesome, like the number of discussion on the streams and the fact that as a viewer, I'm not just a passive couch potato watching a game, but I'm actually involved in what's going on in that stream. So I created a crazy interaction. The other thing that was really amazing is we were able to compare the time on stream on the Pro League. So this is the French Pro League of Rainbow Six Siege. So we were live for a few like the end of the previous season, the current season. This is, and I removed the scale intentionally. Sorry about that. But this is the time spent on stream for users who cannot see the Azarus extension, whether you're on Xbox or Fire TV, there are a few limitations. And those are the ones who can see it. So you can see people are just massively staying. And those streams last for 4 hours. So on average, what that means, people would stay probably for a match or a bit of a match. But with the Azarus extension and question about the stream, question about who is going to win the next game, who won the previous one, who will make first blood, which weapon was used to kill Pengu on the previous game, those kind of questions just create interest, intensity, and just motivate people to stay longer on the stream. The other thing we were able to measure is that correlation between watch time and play time. So if you recall, the industry standard is something between 40 and 80%. We are almost at 90% correlation here. That means that we get people to spend more time watching, getting so engaged that they go even more than the best of the industry back into the game playing. The other thing that we were able to do is to force a little bit that conversion. And that's a really cool idea that we implemented and that worked out, is that during the game we would ask players, hey, you've been watching that stream for an hour. Now you know what? Go play the game 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row, 6 days in a row, and we'll give you some credits for that. And what's phenomenal is that we increased, I cannot tell you about how much, but we increased by an order of magnitude the number of days played in a week by that simple mechanic. So basically, from a stream, leveraging on that investment that Ubisoft is doing on Rainbow Six Siege, on making an esports and making a broadcast, that turns into playtime. If you all know how game works, playtime, that's LTV, direct correlation. More hours played, more money in the bank. So that's pretty, that has been a very impressive result. And in case you're wondering, it's not just people showing up once, playing a game just to tick that box. They're meaningfully playing, and that's the number of games they play per week. You can see that this is not just one session, these full days, play days that are being delivered on the platform because we were funding those users. And those users like the game because they're watching broadcasts. So it makes a ton of sense. Being able to create those incentives on stream delivers playtime. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it looks fun. Finally, a few things that are really important. Everything here that I've shown works because we create incentive loops. And those incentive loops only work with proper incentives. Shocker. So we tried a few, and what we found is that as we were designing those experiences, and 3 experiences, like how do I get people to spend more time on stream, what are the right questions, what are the right population, how do I target, it's also important to understand what are the right incentives for the right population. On some streams, definitely super hardcore players, they want booster packs. Booster packs are actually something that you use to increase your leveling up. They expire, and they are something that those guys loved the most. In other case, Rainbow Six credits were actually a better match. So it's really interesting to watch that even on the redemption and the incentive side, you have to be highly personalized. You have to understand what is the best motivator for your player that achieves the goals of increasing engagement and retention on those streams. And yes? Oh, 5 minutes, okay, I'm fine, I'm almost there. Finally, the last bit that we're going to be releasing, that we started releasing already and that we're expanding, is allowing players to shape their own challenges. Just because Fortnite has decided that winning means being making a first victory royale, doesn't mean that for me and Oscar, winning Fortnite can be just about like me making more headshots than you, or building the biggest tower, or not dying. Or the first one who dies loses. I can camp. So it's really about like empowering players to define their own rules. And the idea behind that is pretty simple. If you look at League of Legends, it started at the 5v5 on 3 lanes, and just people ended up deciding, hey, I don't have 45 minutes or an hour ahead of me, let's make it shorter. 3v3 on 1 lane would be the best. And they just would agree to that kind of gameplay. And if you look at the whole industry, the last 20 years of live games, World of Warcraft and such, people have agreed on how they want to play the game, constantly, over and over. And basically what the platform does is scaling that. Like, you have agreed, fine, just write down the rules and make sure that there is no sole loser. No one wants to lose, even on rules that you agreed on. It's like, oh, let's redo. It wasn't like fair, like, oh, I didn't see that the match started or whatnot. That doesn't work on Azarus. Like, you've set the rules, we have the data, we execute the contract. You win or lose, but that's how it's going to be. And there's no discussion. So what my takeaway for you guys here is you all have techniques to acquire users. There's a ton of them out there. When you look at engagement and retention, it's great to have live ops, that's the first step, but you really have to think about how do I micro-target those audiences, whether they come from influencers, whether they are psychology of players, and how do I create a framework that allows me to incentivize those behaviors that change the behavior of those audiences in a scalable and automated way. That's what we built. Whether you use Azarus or something else, that's something that you need to think about. Not each user is the same. You have to think about how do you personalize that experience and avoid that challenge fatigue that Oscar mentioned earlier, because I'm definitely challenge fatigue on quite a few games. I do not care about the challenges anymore, unless I set them. That's it. Thank you.
Cool. I think, yeah, kick applause away, please. Yeah, so I think you're right. One of the things for me about this whole process is the more data we've got, the more analysis we've got, the more we can look at each cohort, each individual even, and and try to make sure we get the best possible experience for them. And tools like this just make that a lot easier to do. So I don't see that being any kind of issue at all. Far from it. I think it's amazing that we can do this kind of stuff nowadays. 10 years ago you just couldn't.